I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's Simplify Your Storage and Accelerate Your Business webinar. Today, John Hines, Account Executive, and Mike Primazan, Solutions Engineer from Pure Storage, will be presenting. For those of you not familiar with CCSI, we've been in business since 1974, and our core competencies consist of infrastructure, which incorporates the data center, so storage solutions, which is what we're going to be talking about today, virtualization, switching, routing, firewalls, voice over IP, wireless solutions, disaster recovery, redundant data centers, video surveillance, and also access control. We also offer hardware maintenance offerings with customized SLAs. We do 24/7 application monitoring services, and we're a managed service provider. So we have a network operations center and a managed security provider with our security operations center, and we leverage our Threat Protect security offerings. For any questions during today's call, please message them to our webinar host, Catherine Irizarry. And following today's session, a survey will be sent. So for all completed surveys, you'll receive a complimentary Starbucks gift card. We really appreciate your feedback. It lets us know the type of material, the type of topics for future events that you'd like us to focus on. So it's really helpful. And also, after today's WebEx, for anyone accepting a meeting or a virtual session on today's topic, you'll receive a complimentary Pure Storage Yeti. So I'd like to take this opportunity and introduce you to our first guest speaker, John Hines of Pure Storage.
Okay, can you hear me and see my screen? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so Joe, thanks for the introduction. I'm John Hines, an account executive with Pure Storage. So appreciate you guys making the time this morning to hear a little bit more about Pure. Just a 10,000-foot view of Pure Storage. We work with over half of the Fortune 500 companies. We've been a Gartner leader for over 8 years now, and one of the things we're really proud of is we have a net promoter score of 85. And just to put things in perspective, it starts at a -100 and goes to 100. 30 to 60 is considered good. And, as another reference point, Apple has a net promoter score of 65. So, we're in the top 1% of business to business companies as far as net promoter score. A little more information. Founded in 2009. Our first FlashArray was started to ship in 2012, and we've been innovating for the last 12 years. So, we're not just a block storage company anymore. Like I said, we've become a portfolio company. We have solutions around Kubernetes, block storage, file, object, in the cloud, hybrid cloud, or on-prem. Mike will get into some of this in a little bit, but just wanted to give you this overview. And you don't have to take our word for, being, one of the best in the industry. We're constantly recognized by Gartner. Our block storage has been recognized 8 years. I believe this is the 9th year now. We've been recognized. In the last 3 years, we've been highest and furthest to the right than any other all-flash block storage vendor. And our file solution, FlashBlade, is unified file and object, and we have been recognized by Gartner to be a leader this year as well. All this was published within the last couple weeks. So I feel that, Pure has done so well. We're seeing, double-digit growth year over year for a company that's been around over 10 years. That's pretty impressive. And, I feel one of the main contributing reasons is because of our Evergreen story. So Evergreen is, I think all of us are used to, buying a storage solution. You buy a maintenance contract. It's up after, 2 or after like 3 to 5 years. And, this creates a lot of rebuys and waste. The data migrations introduce risk and really just decrease your agility. So Pure's been so disruptive in the market because we've been able to eliminate these rebuys. So what is Evergreen and Evergreen Forever? It's all-inclusive software subscription. Customers have access to all the software features and releases with a maintenance contract. We're able to achieve this with hardware architecture that decouples the controllers from the flash. So controllers can be upgraded with no downtime. Flash modules can be swapped out and upgraded on the fly, all through a subscription with controller upgrades done at regular intervals. If you have any unplanned events, I don't think anybody on this call has a crystal ball. If you did, you probably wouldn't be on here. You'd be on a beach somewhere. So for those unplanned events, we'll buy back controllers. We'll give you full trade-in value for the maintenance paid and help you upgrade those again with no downtime. The Pure GUI, Pure One, it's easy to use. It's a single pane of glass to manage the entire fleet, physical or virtual. So, here's a timeline showing how an array can be deployed for 10 years and still be used in the data center. Every 3 years, a customer gets a free controller upgrade when they renew their maintenance. And a couple data points just to prove this out. We've done 10,000 controller upgrades in the field. 93% of those arrays have been used for 6+ years. So that's pretty impressive. And there's no other vendors that can come out and say that. Usually when you have an array in the field for 6 years, you're typically sweating that asset and you don't have access to the new software features like you would with a Pure array. So we're seeing a lot of growth with Evergreen One. And Evergreen One is an SLA-based cloud-like consumption model. Capacity and consumption is managed by Pure, billed monthly, quarterly, or annually in the rears. Hardware and software upgrades are done by Pure with no downtime. So why did we do this? So our customers are asking or have been asking us for help accelerating IT, moving costs into future quarters so they can buy more infrastructure today, really just to speed up IT initiatives and keep people closer to applications or other infrastructure tasks, and really just accelerate the deployment of new infrastructure. So it's a subscription for block, file, and object storage services on-prem, in the cloud, underpinned by Pure technology. Evergreen One is not a lease in disguise like a lot of other vendors offer. There's no hardware to purchase or commitment of 75% of the storage capacity up front. Instead, Evergreen One allows you to reserve as little as 50 terabytes with access to unlimited on-demand consumption afterwards. So really just to kind of wrap up, sort of some of the business drivers of why folks choose Pure. Pure Forever offers a lot of just cloud economics and operations with SLA-based outcomes. This really, like I said earlier, is one of our most popular solutions. It's growing 30% year over year, which is pretty impressive. And then just, one other thing I want to add before I hand things over to Mike is, we're seeing a lot of organizations prioritize environmental, social, and governance initiatives, or ESG. If this is a priority to you, we'd love to be able to share this third-party white paper with you. So, maybe you can take advantage of, just a more efficient, carbon neutral solution compared to other vendors out there. So with that, I will hand things over to Mike and stop sharing here. If I can figure that out. Kat, if you could maybe help me stop sharing.
Yeah, you actually don't even need to stop sharing, Mike. You could just share yours on top of it and his will go away.
Oh, sure. Okay. Thanks all.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
we don't see your slides yet.
Yeah, I don't see my slides either because we were sharing the other day and I don't have any slides up.
Oh, I'll just, Mike, do you need me to share my deck?
Yeah, can we do that? And I'll just say next slide.
Sure.
Hold on. There you go.
Okie dokie.
Next slide.
Yep.
So hi, everybody. My name is Mike Primazon. I've been with Pure for a little bit over 3 years now. In that time in Pure, I've spent time in the Mid-Atlantic, in the Virginia and Baltimore, Washington, D.C. markets. I've worked in the New York City markets, and I'm also now working not just in New York City, but in the New England markets. And now my new home is actually in New England, as I picked up a new job as the systems engineering manager for all the SEs from the East Coast, from Maine all the way down to Central Jersey. But before I came to Pure, I was actually a customer, and I came across Pure right around 2015, 2016. I was the senior director of technical operations at a company called Newstar, where I was in charge of all the infrastructure operations and a number of the engineering, efforts inside of the data centers. At the time, we had 90 small co-location centers. We had 6 big regional data centers, and we had 2 on-prem data centers. And when we got there, when I got there, everything was kind of a little bit long in the tooth. So, we put together a project, a big transformation project. We had a bunch of legacy storage at the time, and we were looking to refresh storage with our existing vendors. But then we came across, as we were doing our due diligence, the Pure company, and we tested out our first Pure FlashArray. And within 3 years of time, I really ended up swapping out, all of the legacy storage that we had, and there was a number of storage arrays from companies like EMC and NetApp. And we eventually ended up with about 30 Pure arrays of varying sizes in terms of the controllers. Besides Pure, I can honestly say that the only other really disruptive technology that I've come across in my 25 years or so in terms of the infrastructure for the data center was VMware. So that's a pretty big thing to say, like, oh, wow, VMware was pretty transformative. And for me as a customer, Pure was also very transformative. And the reason was we went from, very big, very large, storage arrays that took up racks and racks of data in the data center, took up huge amounts of, electricity with spinning disks at the time. And, quite honestly, we're not simple to operate. We went from that to a very small footprint in the data centers and really simple to operate to the point where, I at one time had 7 storage admins, and I was able to take some of those storage admins and move them into other more important, higher functioning jobs because, we didn't have the need to actually manage through the everyday, day-to-day tuning and knob turning, associated with the legacy storage. So, since that time, Pure has really kind of rounded out its portfolio. We originally started with one array, and that array was named the FlashArray. And at the time that I bought it was the M series. And that was really the array that was meant for high performance workloads. So, if you look there on the top left, you've got that FlashArray, what's today the X series array. And that X series array is really designed for microsecond latency workloads. You'll find your high performance VMs go very well there. You'll find your high performance databases, Oracle, SQL, go there very nicely. We're very, very big in terms of our use cases as they pertain to, medical. So Epic is a huge, huge application in the healthcare space for this type of an array. And then we also do a lot, in terms of now moving down the stack with our capacity optimized array. And that's a little bit farther down the slide there. You can see as the FlashArray C on the left. And the FlashArray C, like I said, rather than a microsecond latency array, is really designed to be our capacity optimized array. So this array comes in a little bit bigger, capacities. And it's designed with a type of flash chip or NAND called a QLC NAND. And this particular brand of NAND allows us to provide a better cost per terabyte for a whole, rash of different application types. So any workload that basically can handle 2 to 4 milliseconds of latency is a very good candidate for a FlashArray C. And both the FlashArray X and the FlashArray C, besides being block arrays, now do varying degrees of files. So we support NFS, we support SMB for specific use cases around user shares and home directories. On the right side is our other superstar, and what I mean by that is the first two arrays, the flash arrays, are scale-up arrays, while the FlashBlade is a scale-out array. And this array was really, really designed for next-generation workloads. So any workload involving AI, artificial intelligence, or machine learning, anything that is a kind of next-generation streaming kind of analytics platform, if you want to run Spark as an example, this is very good. The data scientists really like this array. They run TensorFlow on there, and this array actually allows you to take many, many sources of unstructured data, right? And from a fast file and object perspective, really take data from different platforms that you might have on-prem today and put them all onto this particular array. It becomes a data hub of sorts, right? And really it allows data pipeline management to become much more streamlined. Because it's more streamlined, now when you're talking about training these models for AI and ML, the data scientists spend less time actually, munging data together and trying to normalize the data, and more time actually doing the training itself. Next slide. So let's go over really quickly levels of performance in the FlashArray. So you can see here I talked about the X array, and that's really sitting kind of in the middle of this slide. You can see to the left of it is the FlashArray C, which is the capacity optimized array. And you can see our newest array type, and that is the XL form factor. Now, the C arrays, the capacity optimized arrays, and the X arrays are all 3U devices, while the XL is a 5U device. But if you look at kind of where do these all fit, when you look at these numbers, X10, X20, X50, C40, C60, really what we're talking about is the ability to, to move up in levels of performance, but also move up in terms of capacity, right? So you will see as an example that if you were to buy an X20, you got about 314 terabytes versus an X50, 663. The difference between the X and the XL is simply the XL allows you to consolidate many, many high-performance workloads onto basically one array. And it's really built, to handle lots and lots of, microsecond latency performance without having to, create a little bit more of data center sprawl. Next slide. So I thought it might be useful to talk about kind of the 4 core technologies that kind of makes Pure different in its FlashArray models, right? And if we talk about that, right, it starts with the architecture. Now, John mentioned the Evergreen model, and today a lot of the vendors are doing things like offering free controllers after 3 years. The difference between the Pure arrays and the models that other vendors are coming up with is Evergreen for us is not just kind of the business side and the marketing side, it's actually built into the architecture. And what I mean by that is these arrays are basically software defined. They use stateless controllers. And being software defined lets us adopt next generation technologies without doing these data migrations that John mentioned. So basically at Pure, we like to say your data is the array. And everything is upgradable on the FlashArray, which is why the chassis end up being very, very long life. When you move over to the metadata fabric, right, basically we use a 512-byte variable metadata, and that powers everything that we do in our Purity operating system. So 512 bytes is actually 8 times more granular than our nearest competitor. This means we'll significantly, be able to do more deduplication, right, than our competitors. In fact, we're 2 times more capacity efficient than our nearest competitors. And it also allows us to implement snapshots and clones in the metadata. This is a very, very efficient way of creating snapshots and clones because it takes less space, right, when you create a snapshot, and they're near instantaneous. Our direct flash modules are also very unique in the industry in that we don't buy SSDs. Almost every other vendor out there continues to buy SSDs. We actually produce our own SSDs, and we do that for some very good reasons. First of all, it eliminates the legacy hardware protocols and the hard drive protocols and the SSD controllers. And these are typically bottlenecks on an NVMe array because you have basically one stream of data, to come through that SSD controller. Our ability to provide direct access to the NAND over the NVMe protocol improves performance. It provides for better deterministic latency, and also it improves wear on the drive. So we're finding that our drives don't wear as fast as these SSDs do, and that kind of makes a difference in the data center as well. Our software has direct access to the NAND, which means that basically instead of one parallel lane when you're looking to do reads or writes off of an SSD, we give you 512. And then finally, we have our Pure One Meta, and this is our in the cloud AI engine. So every Pure array that you buy dials home at 30-second intervals with telemetric data related to health of the array and performance, right? We also look at the duplication rates across workloads. And this allows us to very accurately, when you buy an array, it allows us to give you a storage guarantee in terms of what kind of capacity and deduplication you're going to get, because literally we see all these workloads and we've been able to, over time, ascertain, as an example, we'll probably get pretty close to 4-to-1 on an Oracle workload. Maybe we'll get better than 4-to-1 on a VMware workload. And again, that's just deduplication. That's not including compression. That's not including thin provisioning. So, this allows us to have, virtually the highest data reduction rates in the industry. On top of this AI engine in Pure One allows us to do some really interesting things in terms of what we call fingerprinting. So as the health and the telemetrics comes through, we have a team of folks that are proactive. And these proactive folks look for, we'll call them minor issues that could become major issues. And when they find those things, and it doesn't have to necessarily be inside the Pure array, it could be an interaction between, another HVA sitting off a switch, right, or a host, and a Pure array. They'll find those things, they'll fingerprint them, and then when, the telemetry detects that particular issue, we'll proactively either send out a notification to the customer that, hey, there's something that needs to be addressed, and we typically address those with, with software upgrades, or we'll send out a warning, don't use this, this piece of equipment with this piece of equipment, until we talk to the other vendor and, we establish, a permanent fix. Next slide.
Yeah, hey, I just want to add one thing because, we're not dependent on a lot of other hardware from manufacturers. We're not seeing the lead times that a lot of other vendors are seeing. Joe can attest to this. We received a PO about 2 weeks ago, and everything's slated to ship in less than a week. So we're seeing sub 1 month lead times at the moment. So, if you guys are experiencing these long lead times, that's not something that, we're seeing on our end.
Thanks, John. So let's talk a little bit about the chassis. So you can see here, this is a 3U device, and everything is modular. So we have the actual flash modules themselves. We have NVRAM, right, and that's what the host writes to first. When we talk about going from the host to the drive, we don't have watch batteries, so to speak, like some of the legacy providers. We actually write all data to NVRAM first. We fill up those buffers, and then at the point that there's enough, we actually lay it down on the NAND. It's a 2-controller architecture, like I said. It's stateless. And from the perspective of how do you connect, well, we connect either fiber channel, we connect iSCSI, and now we connect NVMe. And our arrays were the first arrays on the market that were 100% NVMe. That means front end and back end. So today, if you wanted to use, NVMe from the host to the array, that is something that we support, and we support in a number of ways. You can do it NVMe over fiber channel. You can do it NVMe over the Rocky protocol using RDMA. Next slide. Okay, so can we go to the next slide, please? I think I covered this. Sorry about that. So the controllers themselves, they are upgradable, as I said. So we don't want customers starting off with, can you go back a slide? There we go. We don't want customers necessarily, starting off with an array that is really, call it too much of an array, when they don't need to. Like John said, none of us have a crystal ball, but, as workloads grow over time, sometimes we need additional capacity, but sometimes we need additional performance. And that's really what these controller models are set to. So the controllers themselves slide into the back of the chassis. They're all the same size in terms of physical size, but they have varying degrees of performance depending on CPU that we use, number of NVRAM modules, and so on and so forth. But if you look, you start with this X10 controller, and as you grow with Pure, if your workloads grow, you can upgrade in place non-disruptively. Not even during maintenance do we take a downtime. And you'll have 100% performance across, the entirety of the upgrade. But, if you had to go from an X10 or an X20 to an X50, it would be a matter of simply, making that call to the account team. We would get the work going in terms of getting the PO purchased. We would give you a credit for the old controller, basically what you paid for the old controller. And you would upgrade to that newer model of upgraded, controller for the performance and the capacity needs that you might have moving forward. The chassis themselves have a 10-year lifespan. What we're seeing is actually a little bit longer than that, but they were designed initially in mind that we would have these chassis for around 10 years. But the controllers, we pretty much upgrade our controllers to the next model every 3 years or so. And that falls in line with the Evergreen Forever model, which is, hey, you buy, your controllers and your software subscriptions, and then, when you're renewing your maintenance after the first 3 years for the next 3 years, you are automatically entitled to that next generation controller. And again, because we lay down our own NAND on our own direct flash drives, we tend to have denser drives. So we're continually putting more and more capacity on these drives. And that allows, us to be able to innovate in terms of keeping the power and the space lower in the data center. So today we offer MLC, TLC, types of NAND. We offer QLC, and we even have what we call our direct memory modules, which are a version of Intel Optane. And that's for customers that run SAP workloads. And, you know, if we put a couple of these Optane drives in with the rest of the direct flash module drives, what we found is we end up saving customers on their SAP HANA licensing fees, because we run about 90% of the performance of running a HANA database, but we can do it a little bit, you know, more cost effectively. So again, upgrade everything and upgradable software and Purity. When it's time to upgrade software, you call into Pure, or now you just go to Pure One and you say, I want to do an upgrade. We give you the calendar of what dates and times are available. You sign up for that inside of the Pure One GUI, and then we actually perform the upgrade for you at the given time. You just open up remote access, and away we go. We upgrade the array, again, non-disruptively, and you're on the next version of code. Next slide. So if you look at the capacity optimized array, the FlashArray C, what's really great about that is now we have a way to actually help customers move some of their day-to-day tasks, call it on the application side, right, into the capacity optimized array. So again, with our very space-saving snapshots, you know, you can take as many snapshots pretty much as you want and offload them from your X arrays to your C arrays. And this works very, very well for test dev kinds of application teams, because in the test dev world, they can get the most recent copies of data, and they can get them at a lower cost per terabyte rate using this FlashArray C. We also have a methodology around these snapshots called safe mode, and they're specifically designed for ransomware. So when you think about immutability, our snapshots are completely immutable, and we've combined that with a process between our customers and Pure, where if you were the victim of a ransomware attack, you would simply call into Pure, you know, and at that point we would release the snapshots, right, that are not not encrypted, and you can recover very, very quickly from a ransomware attack. We have customers that actually take ransomware snapshots. They have them on their X arrays, and they offload them onto their C arrays, and they do that from multiple X arrays to a one C array, and that tends to work very, very well in terms of a cost-effective way to ensure against ransomware attacks. And even insurance companies are giving customers discounts for having this feature turned on. Next slide. So we talk about unified storage, right? I mentioned, you know, we do block, we do file, we do VM on these flash arrays. You know, we've got fiber channel iSCSI, virtual volumes. You know, we're probably kind of a pioneer in terms of our advocacy for customers moving, you know, from their existing VM file systems to doing virtual volumes. And the reason for that is because mobility, right? When you have virtual volumes, it makes it much, much simpler if you're going to make a cloud journey, because you can move those volumes pretty seamlessly into public cloud infrastructure. We do NVMe over Fabric, and you know, we support NFS and SMB on the flash array. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to move a little bit into cloud, and we recognized over 4 years ago that most customers, you know, would probably not be doing all of their application development and application and production workloads in their own data centers. They would move at least some of those applications into the public cloud. And there are varying reasons that people go into the public cloud. You know, it's great for, you know, auto scaling, and it's very good if you need, you know, proximity to different applications, being very close to the customer, and you're kind of a global company. Those are all great use cases for the cloud. But we also recognize that customers, even though some of them think they're going to go to the cloud, that cloud journey can be very, very difficult. And not every application sitting in a data center today that a customer has will appropriately move, into the cloud in a refactored application kind of way. So for that reason, we took our Purity software, which is that same, again, data reducing software, and we applied it to the public cloud providers. So today, you can actually buy the Purity software in Amazon and also in Azure. And what this essentially does is we took our software and we overlaid it over an architecture inside the cloud. It's not just, kind of call it an EBS instance or an EC2 instance. It's actually multiple drives, right, in the cloud. And what that actually does is it makes it very easy to move from call it your on-prem volumes into a pure storage volume in the cloud. The other thing it does is it actually brings enterprise level block storage features to the cloud. So anybody that knows much about how cloud storage works knows that not only do you pay by how much you say you're going to use, but you don't get any thin provisioning. Well, this provides you thin provisioning. It provides you the ability to do snapshots in the cloud. And what I mean by snapshots is our metadata snapshots, right? If you take a 1 terabyte database and you try and create a cloud snapshot in AWS, that probably is going to take you about an hour. And you're going to pay for a terabyte additional of snapshot. If you do it on a FlashArray in the cloud, on our CBS product, it's going to be literally instantaneous, 2 seconds or less. And the really nice thing about that is it's all metadata. So you're not going to pay all of that extra. And what we're finding is customers really like the ability to be able to do different use cases using Cloud Block Store. But that single API really does help with applications you can't refactor and that you, in fact, have to lift and shift. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the hardware architecture, not a lot. Basically, if you look at that FlashArray where we have the 2 controllers on the top there, we basically mirror that in the public cloud providers. As an example, in AWS, those will be 2 EC2 instances. We take the NVRAM and we take the flash modules and we basically lay down other EC2 instances across, I believe it's 6 of those EBS instances with IO1 or IO2, depending on the performance that you need. We use DynamoDB to actually manage all of that through. And finally, we write all the data to S3. So if the EBS volumes go away, as they sometimes do in the cloud, we have the durability of S3 to recover the data and basically restand up those EBS instances. Next slide. So, when you think about cloud storage, right, you could end up overpaying quite a bit for your block storage on a lift and shift. What this software allows you to do, right, because it's software, is, again, we're going to provide you compression, deduplication. We're going to provide you a single API into the cloud, right? We're going to give you a very reliable, secure, because it's all encrypted, between your private data centers and in the cloud, and that's FIPS 140 compliant, and it's flexible because it's a pay-as-you-go consumption model. So typically, customers end up saving. Any customer that puts 100 terabytes or more into the cloud ends up saving close to 40% over if they were just to go with buying EBS by itself in the cloud, and that 40% more than pays for the little bit of software that you pick up that you use, in the cloud, for Pure. Next slide. So here's a couple of our use cases, right? Because we can apply, basically deploy this across availability zones, right? You have the ability to replicate across availability zones. So you get that along with thin provisioning and deduplication and compression, right? You get the snapshots and you get the encryption. Next slide. And now we're not just talking about, lifting and shifting. We actually have the #1 rated data services platform now on a Kubernetes platform. Next slide. So if you think about containers in Kubernetes and how modern apps are delivered, right? The folks that do call it the research are saying that 95% of new apps are going to be developed in containers in the next few years. And we've got 81% of enterprises planning to use containers in production, mostly on Kubernetes platforms. Next slide. But there's a huge amount of challenge, right, to solve for data. Originally, Kubernetes were set up to be a completely stateless service. But what happens when you want to take enterprise apps and you want to tie them to databases, and you're going to spin up lots and lots of containers, and those containers are sometimes going to be up and sometimes they're going to go away. And how do you maintain connections, to your storage when all of that's going on at scale? Next slide. You could do I'm going to connect an array to a CSI driver, right? And that is typically what has happened in Kubernetes environments. But you're only connected to one array. It doesn't allow for mobility, and it certainly doesn't allow for a large scale, kind of in, call them global environments, right? As you continue to grow your stateful storage, right, needs in a Kubernetes platform, what you run into is you need lots and lots of people to kind of continue to manage just through the storage pieces. And your data does get kind of stuck, right? It's generally stuck in one environment, maybe two, right? From an on-prem connection into the cloud to some database that you're keeping on a storage array. Continue. Next slide. So we introduced Portworx. And basically what Portworx is it's the enterprise solution for stateful storage in the cloud. So it virtually runs on any Kubernetes distribution. It runs in all the public cloud providers. It runs on any storage infrastructure. In fact, it does not need to be a pure array. It runs on Dell arrays. It runs in VMware. It runs on IBM. It runs on NetApp. It runs on bare metal. You literally can attach this software solution to just a regular hard drive or an SSD. And what this does is it abstracts all of the storage from these devices into a storage pool, and then Portworx manages that storage pool. But it also does some very interesting things. First of all, when you abstract all that data, right, while it keeps connections to the physical storage, it also provides the ability to actually pool storage in a way that makes, the ability to actually move data, across different platforms and different providers much more seamlessly. So we call it the ultimate mobility tool. But we also give you these enterprise features. So now all of a sudden, for your compliance, you can do backups with our Portworx backup. You can run DR, right, in Kubernetes, right? And you can also very easily secure everything because we actually encrypt everything again. And autopilot really just is that ability to do that auto scaling without human intervention, right? Human beings trying to figure out, what containers need what storage at what time, right? So we're very, very excited that Portworx has joined with the company. It's been about 3 years. And now we're even offering data services, meaning database as a service on top of the Portworx platform. We just GA'd that, and that's coming relatively soon to customer environments. So today we support Redis, and we support Cassandra, we support Postgres, and pretty soon we'll be supporting Mongo as well. Next slide. I think you have to click through this a little bit. So this is just kind of, some of the customers that have used this. And we have T-Mobile, they reduced their app deployment times from 6 months to literally hours. For those of you with kids, Roblox, right? They scaled in March 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic as much in 1 week as they did in the previous year with Portworx. From a reliability perspective, Royal Bank of Canada gave reliability and speed moving to Kubernetes and to Portworx. And finally, Audi uses this right in their business innovation center, and it cut AWS storage bill by 60%, right? So we're very proud that we have customers that have been getting great results. And the latest one that we have is the Ford Motor Company, the F-150, on the assembly line, Portworx is being used. Next slide. That is it. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over, and I guess we'll take questions.
Yeah, we got a few questions in. Hold on. The first question is, how do maintenance prices change after the initial purchase?
John, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it?
Yeah, sure. So, we have something called flat and fair pricing. So, the price you pay for maintenance with the initial purchase is going to be the price you pay for renewal. So, this is in line with our, initiative to keep everything predictable, upfront. So, those model or that pricing doesn't change, and you still get to take advantage of a free controller upgrade every 3 years.
Cool. The next question is, what's included in the Evergreen Forever subscription?
Yeah, so the Evergreen Forever subscription is, all of your hardware maintenance, and then access to our full software portfolio. Nothing's a la carte, and then as new software features are released, you can use those and get access to those as soon as they come out. I think Mike and I would recommend maybe waiting a little bit to ensure that you're not the guinea pig. However, all hardware maintenance, software maintenance, and access to all software features are included in the Evergreen Forever subscription.
Thank you. The last question we have is, controllers are replaced every 3 years. What about the disk?
Yeah, so Mike, if you want to kind of come over the top here, but at a high level, the Flash modules are replaced as we internally see them degrade, right? So, as they, start to get a little long in the tooth and are wearing out, our maintenance just automatically goes out and sends new Flash modules out. Mike, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, I'll just say, and I mentioned this before, in terms of wear on Flash, right? The way we're manufacturing our direct Flash modules versus the regular SSDs, we have a longer life. But and what happens typically with Flash, for those not aware, is reads are essentially free on Flash, but writes are destructive. So our software uses some very, very intricate algorithms to determine when it's time to replace a drive. We will get those alerts back into, again, our AI Meta platform. That will spur a internal ticket at Pure being opened up, and notification to the customer that, hey, your drives are wearing, we need to replace them. And then we'll come out and we'll replace the drive. So the short answer is, there's no given time when a drive gets replaced. It gets replaced as it gets a little bit long in the tooth, and we determine it's time to replace the drive.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kat. I think that was the last. That was the last question. Thank you, Kat. So John, Mike from Pure, very informative. John had mentioned earlier, with regards to lead times, I can tell you firsthand, and a lot of the customers on the line, they can relate. The last 2 years, very close to 2 years, lead times have been abysmal, and Pure has been a pleasant relief where they have product. So not only are they a very good partner from a partner standpoint, both John and Mike are a phenomenal team to work with from the sales side, from the engineering side, and their company backs them up from high-performing solutions at a price point investment that provides a lot of savings, and mission-critical environments as well as non-mission critical environments. So great partnership and very informative. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mike. And for the attendees, thank you for your time today. Your account managers will be following up to discuss next steps. Also, reminders, there will be a survey sent to all the attendees. We really appreciate your feedback. Anyone accepting also a meeting, a virtual session on today's topic, you'll receive a Pure Storage Yeti. So this concludes today's event. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, guys.